How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's Sick Mobility class. I am Coach Ray. Thank you for joining me as usual. So for today's class, we're going to need access to 2 long sticks. So we're still working on that superficial back line. So a lot of drills we're going to focus on is actually we're going to use the neck to tension, working on shoulder mobility. So I have a band set up behind me, and you want to have it attached to something very, very, very securely. Okay, so we don't have any accidents here. So I have it set up and anchored into a wall here, and I'm using a big band. So we're going to get into some dislocates with that. Also have 2 kettlebells behind me. Those kettlebells are going to be used for a staggered deadlift, where we are going to be focusing on hip hinging, and we're going to do everything in terms of sets. All right, and I do want to actually finish off with at least 1 core drill. All right, so we're going to go through a full body warm up. I just want to make sure we get all the tissues loosened up and ready to go. All right. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a dynamic warm up, and I'm going to start back here. Now I'm going to have the stick in front of my hips here. Hands are out straight, or hands out wide. Elbows are locked out. I'm going to start with my feet together. Now what I want to do first is I'm going to take my right heel, place it in front of my left foot here, and I'm going to use my leg to guide the stick down towards the ground, getting a stretch in the hamstring. And then I'm going to come back up, bring the right heel back, and then bring the left heel forward, plant it, slight bend to the knee, go down that leg, get a nice good hamstring stretch, come back up. We'll repeat that again. So right foot forward, drive those hips back. Make sure you're breathing. Good. Left foot forward. Excellent. We're not pulling or pushing on a stick here. We're just using it as a guide. Breathe. And you don't want to go to your back rounds. You want to try to keep as neutral of a spine as you can. Let's go one more time each side. Excellent, one more. Make sure you're breathing. Good, excellent. And now I'm going to take a wide stance, a horse stance here, and I want to go a little wider than shoulder width. Both feet are going to be pointed forward. We're going to get into some foot and ankle drills here. I want the stick in line with my center line. Hands are going to be about roughly chest height. And what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to drop down. So I want to make sure that I bend my knees. My pelvis is still stacked under my spine, right? We're not in a position where the hips are behind or the hips are in front. When everything's stacked nice and tall, what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to bring both heels up, nice and high. The level of my torso does not change. Bring the heels back down, nice and slow. We're not driving down on the stick. We're just using it for balance here. Bring both heels up as high as you can. 5 toes in contact with the floor on both feet. Good. Back up. Up nice and tall. Both heels down. Excellent. Back up again. Nice and tall. Good. Back down. One more time. Up. Excellent. Back down. And ease off. So since we are going to be getting into some staggered deadlifts, we are going to do pelvic tilts from a stagger stance. So I'm going to start with my right foot forward, and my left foot's going to be back. I don't want to take too big of a split here because I want to keep it true to the movement that we're going to do. So I'm going to have my back foot, I want the toes about a couple inches behind the line of the heel of my front foot, right? So what I'm going to do, I want to make sure that I'm planting that right foot, grabbing around with those toes here. The back foot, I want to keep that heel up nice and high. I'm going to have my hands at chest height, stay up nice and tall. I'm going to lightly drive the stick into the ground about 20%, and I'm going to do a posterior pelvic tilt. Squeeze that glute, that left glute should fire. Now I'm gonna do an anterior tilt. Posterior tilt, keep driving that stick down. Do not lose that tension. Anterior tilt. Good, posterior tilt. Anterior tilt. Posterior tilt. Squeeze, anterior tilt. Back to center and ease off. We're gonna switch sides here. So we're gonna set up the same, and the width that you're at is gonna be roughly anywhere between hip to shoulder width, whatever your most comfortable deadlift stance is gonna be. I'm gonna switch my hands. Hands are stacked, chest height. I'm gonna load those legs here. My right heel is up nice and tall. Drive the stick down to the floor 30%. Posterior tilt. You should feel that right glute really firing here. Anterior tilt. Those lower back tissues tighten up. Posterior tilt. Good. Anterior tilt. Good. Posterior tilt. Anterior tilt. Let's go 2 more each way. Posterior tilt. Anterior tilt. One more time. Posterior tilt. Good. Anterior tilt. Back to center. And ease off. Excellent. So I want to move these kettlebells out of the way. And what I want to do is I want to focus on getting a little bit of the spinal rotation here at the same time stretching out the hip flexor. So we're going to do this from a standing position. So what we're going to do from here, I'm going to have my left foot forward, right foot is back. So we're really going for that stretch in the front of that hip here on the right side. I'm going to have the stick on the left side of my body, in bottom of the sticks in line with the toes here. You can have it out a little further if need be, but let's start off with the bottom of the stick being in line with the toes. What I want to do from here, load that front leg, and I want to keep this back leg bent. What I'm going to do from this position, I'm going to tuck my pelvis and squeeze that right glute. This is going to activate a stretch in the front of that hip here, right? Now what I'm going to do, having my hand up high on the stick, I'm going to rotate the stick back behind me and reach across towards the left side. Bring it back in. Good, let's go, a couple more. You're not driving the stick into the ground here. We're using it as a way to work on that rotation. Let's go one more. Keep that pelvis tucked. Squeeze that right glute. Excellent. Come back to center and ease off. So that right leg or that back knee is going to be bent a bit. That's okay. You don't need to actually straighten out the leg. That is going to increase the stretch though if you do. So I'm going to have my right foot forward, left foot is back. Going to be in that same position here. Bottom of the stick is in line with the toes of the right leg. I'm up tall on that back heel. So from here, I'm going to sink down. That back leg is bent. Keep that hip facing forward. Tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute. From here, open up, rotate to the right. You want to make sure that this right knee or the front knee is not moving side to side or bowing out or in. You want to keep it stacked over midfoot. Make sure you breathe. Excellent. Let's go one more time. Rotate, reach. Excellent. Back forward and ease off. Good. So, really stretching out, opening up those hip flexors here. Now we're actually going to open up the adductors a bit here. So I'm going to go to the floor, and I want to actually have my front leg angled out in front here. So my right knee is down, left leg is out diagonally, kind of about a 45-degree angle. It's going to be very, very similar to a Guitar Hero. The only difference is instead of the stick coming out to the side, when it's typically parallel to the hips, when the left leg is out here, since the leg is at a 45-degree angle, we need to keep the stick parallel to that leg here. So I'm gonna have my left hand out, try to find a distance where your left hand is actually stretched out here. I'm gonna have my right hand right in front of my hip. Now my back foot, I wanna drive it into the floor. The top of that ankle, the top of my foot is into the ground here. So drive that foot down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute a bit, right? Keep a nice good pelvic position. I'm gonna sink in going towards that front leg. Now I'm gonna drive that right hand down towards the floor. Breathe, ease off. Good. You can wiggle that foot out a little further if you'd like. Rotate the stick, same thing. Drive that back foot down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute, and drive that right hand towards the floor as you sink into it. Feel that short adductor open up, those groin tissues. Ease off. Let's go one more time. If you like, wiggle your foot out a little bit more. Get a little bit deeper into that stretch. Deep breath in, activate the tissues, drop the foot down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute, and drive that right hand down toward the floor. Really open up those hips and ease off. Excellent. We're gonna switch sides here. So it's kind of very similar to how we do the hip flexor stretch here, right? All we're doing is changing the angle and also changing the tension lines. I'm gonna start with my right foot in, a little bit closer so I can kind of sink into it, also stretch the ankle a little bit as well. So from here, drive that back foot down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute, nice good pelvic position, keep control, sink into that front hip, drive that left hand down. Excellent, ease off. Good, rotate the stick, wiggle your foot out a little further. Same thing. Tuck the pelvis, squeeze the glute, drive the foot down, sink into that front hip, drive that left hand down. Your right arm should be reflexively pulling up to keep you upright. Feel that left groin opening up a bit here, right? Ease off. Excellent. One more time. Wiggle that foot out a little bit more. Rotate the stick. Same thing. Drive that back foot down. Squeeze the glute, tuck the pelvis, and sink into that front hip. Drive that left hand down. Really take advantage of that stretch. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Good. So we're still going to be in a tall kneeling position. I'm going to take the second stick here. And what I want to do, I want to have both sticks angled forward, the bottom of the sticks angled forward here. I do want to actually really get into a hang. So for this one, you don't want to have a ton of your body weight actually drop forward. You still want to keep it relatively controlled. You're going to feel a huge stretch on the hips and those anterior tissues. So I'm going to have my hands up. The bottoms of the sticks are about roughly 1.5 to 2 feet out away from me. I want to have my hands above my head here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze my glutes. And then I'm going to drive my hips forward towards the bottom of the sticks and actually hang. Breathe. Good, come back up and ease off. It is extremely important that you squeeze your glutes here. Keeps that lower back or that lumbar from hyperextending. We want to try to get as much hip extension as we can here. Same thing, squeeze those glutes, sink down into it. You want to feel a good hang here. Three, 2, 1, back up. Excellent, let's go one more time here. Squeeze those glutes, drive those hips forward and down towards the sticks. Almost kind of like we're doing a cobra here, right? Little similar. 3, 2, 1, good, ease off, excellent. And now, I do want to get into a little bit of kayaking, get the shoulders moving around a little bit before we actually get into the shoulder drill, because again, we are going to be utilizing the neck to create tension on that back line. So I'm going to start with my hands out as wide as I can go. Feet are going to be about shoulder width apart. Toes are pointed forward. Squat down a little bit just so you can maintain that position of the pelvis. Squeeze the glutes, left hand up, and drive that left hand back and forward. Good. Your movement should be matching mine. You shouldn't have speed be increased here. Want to keep it nice, slow, and controlled. Feel that shoulder blade gliding along the rib cage here. Excellent. Let's go backwards. Good. Three, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Good. So I want to save the dislocate strength training drill for after we get into the deadlifts, but I really want to focus on those deadlifts first. It's going to take a little bit to kind of work through. It's going to take some getting used to. So we are going to be going with, again, a staggered deadlift, which means that our feet are not going to be square. They're going to be offset. Distance-wise, I don't want the feet to be too far apart. You want to keep that back foot relatively close in terms of where your heel is of your front foot, but really, really light on this foot here. Almost as if that foot is basically non-existent. So I'm going to take 2 kettlebells I have here, and I'm going to set up. So I'm going to start with my feet squared. My feet are actually going to be at hip width here. I'm going to take my right foot and I'm going to plant it back right at the heel of my front foot here. But we're still keeping a really active foot with that left foot. So grab the ground with your toes. Keep this right heel up nice and high. Again, really, really soft or really, really light on this right leg here. What I'm going to do from here, I'm going to hinge to go down to retrieve the kettlebells. I want to make sure my spine is nice and neutral. Now from here, I want to pull my shoulders down towards my hips. So in this direction here, pack those shoulders, stay nice and tight, drive off that left leg, stand up. You should feel that left glute and hamstring working. Hinge and go back down under control. Once to touch the ground, go again. Up, good. There's 2. Up. 3. Up. 4. Up. 5. And ease off. Now we're going to switch legs because we got to do both sides here. So I'm going to turn forward for this. Setup is still the same. Start with your feet at hip width, toes pointed forward. Take that right foot or left foot, place the toes at the heel of the, or in line with the heel of that front leg here. Grab the ground with your right foot, hinge down to grab the kettlebells, pack the shoulders, drive that right foot into the ground, stand up nice and tall. 1. Keep it controlled. Up. 2. Hinge. Up. 3. Hinge. Good. Nice and controlled. Up. 4. One more time, folks. Up. 5. Excellent. Place them down. Take a second. Now we're going to grab both sticks. We're going to get into a single leg RDL. We are supersetting because I do want to make sure that we keep that movement pattern in between sets. So I'm going to set up with my feet close together. Sticks are about a foot in front of the line of my toes here. I want to have my hands set up to right about where my elbow height is. From here, drive both sticks down. I'm going to bring that right foot up. Make sure you're grabbing the ground with your left foot here. And then I'm going to drive my right foot back, reaching my hands out, keeping my right ankle dorsiflexed. Come up. Nice tall position. Let's go 2 more. Hinge. Good. Drive that heel back. Come up. Excellent. One more time, folks. Make sure you breathe. Drive those sticks into the ground, 50 to 60%. Come back up. And ease off. We're going to switch sides. So, also while you're doing this, do not let your hips open up. If you have to reduce the range of motion, please do. Same thing, drive the sticks down, 50 to 60%. Hover that left foot, right foot stays active, grab the ground with your toes, hinge. Up. Good, 2 more. Up. 2, let's go 1 more. Drive those sticks down. Keep that tension. Up. 3, and ease off. Excellent. Let's get back to these staggered deadlifts here. So we're going to start with the left foot forward. Right foot is going to be back in that staggered position, right? So get set. Make sure you hinge to grab those kettlebells. Don't bend over. Nice good hinge. Retrieve the kettlebells. Pack the shoulders. Drive that left foot to the floor. Push. 1. Up. 2. Up. 3. Up. 4. One more time. Up. 5. Good. Let's go ahead and switch. Same thing. Hinge. Drive those hips back towards the wall behind you. Grab the kettlebells, retrieve them, pack the shoulders, drive that foot to the floor. 1. Up. 2. Up. 3. 2 more. Up. 4. One more time. Up. 5. Hinge. Excellent. Good. Now we're into those RDLs one last time, folks. Get set up the same way. Feet together. Drop those sticks down. Let's go 70%. Good. Feel those core tissues turn on. Hover that right foot. Hinge. Up. Good. 1. Hinge. Drive that right heel back. Reach out. Up. 2. One more time. Up. 3. Ease off. Let's go and switch sides. Drop those sticks down. Right foot is nice and active. Over that left foot. Hinge. Up. Squeeze that glute. 1. Hinge. Up. 2. One more time. Up. 3. Ease off. Excellent. Good job, folks. Now we're gonna get into the shoulder drills I wanted to get into. All right, folks. So now we're gonna get into the shoulder dislocate. And again, we're gonna tension our neck to utilize activating those posterior tissues. So we need to have a band, again, I want to mention one more time, make sure it's hooked up very securely to something that is also very secure, okay? We don't want any accidents happening. So I am gonna take the band. This is not super thick of a band. We don't want too much tension because we don't want our head to be pulled forward. We don't want overwhelming force, but we do want there to be a good challenge here. I'm gonna take one stick, so we're only gonna utilize one stick for this. And I wanna take the band and I'm gonna loop it around the base of my skull here, all right? And so we don't want it too low in the neck because now we're gonna miss that actual neck extension. Otherwise, we'll start to extend through the cervical spine here. So we wanna actually really get extension here, get up nice and tall. So I'm gonna take a wider than shoulder width stance. My feet are gonna be pointed forward. I'm gonna get into a horse stance. So I'm gonna squat down a little bit and I wanna keep my chin back. I wanna pack it like I'm trying to do a double chin here. I'm gonna take this stick and I'm gonna place it on top of the band. The band should be about roughly eye level. I'm gonna take a wider than shoulder width grip. Now from here, I wanna start by pulling the stick apart, and then I'm gonna bring the stick up overhead, keeping those elbows locked out. Go back as far as you can. Good, come down. And compress the stick once it touches the band. Feel those anterior tissues get turned on here. And ease off. Good. Now you can step forward if you need a second. You need to ease off some of that tension on the neck tissues and the extensors. That's totally fine. So let's get back into it again. I want to pull my chin back, nice and erect here. Pull the stick apart. Let's go 70%. Pull. Bring the stick up as far as you can. Bring it back down. Still pulling apart. Once it touches the band, compress the stick. And ease off. Step forward. Take a second. It's going to be quite a bit of work on those neck extensors, right? You're going to feel that those erectors all line up all the way going down to your mid back, even your low back possibly. But you want to make sure that you're keeping a nice, good, stable spine and keep the glutes tight to lock that pelvis in position. Let's go one more rep here. It's quite intensive, especially since we're utilizing the neck tissues here. I'm going to take a step back, squat down, pull the chin back, pull apart 70%. Good, up. Hold. Bring back down. Good. Compress the stick. 70%. 3, 2, 1. Good. Ease off. And relax. Take a second. So that is a really, really good way to not only train that position of being up nice and tall, but it's a really good way to learn how to really connect to the superficial back line, because a lot of people forget how important the neck is to connecting to that. So this is a really good way to not only kind of teach it, but also teaches you to kind of learn what it feels like to feel those tissues activate properly, especially with the right positioning and right amount of tension. Not too much, but just a little bit, right? So I want to get into another core drill, or one core drill to be more specific. And what I want to do is I really want to work on a push drill. So we're going to be driving the stick into the wall, and we're going to be resisting that. Thing is, we're going to be going from a split stance, right? Right, so now we're going to get into our core drill where we are driving into the wall, but again, we're going from a split stance. So for the purpose of this drill, I do want to actually have our front or outside leg be the fourth leg here. So I want to create a relatively big split here, nothing too big, but I'm going to have the stick going out to my right. So in this case, my left leg is forward. Now I want to squat down a bit, so make sure both knees are bent. I want to keep my hips forward. So in order to further connect, I'm going to tuck the pelvis. It's gonna be really important to really align the pelvis and the rib cage here. Now from here, arms are at 90 degrees, hands out in front. I want to drive the stick into the wall, but also want to reflexively push off my front leg here. So from here, I'm going to start at 50%, so push. You're going to feel that outside leg working. Ramp up to 60%, so a little harder. Good, 70%. And ease off. Excellent. You should be feeling that outer glute working. Should be feeling, so left glute, right oblique should be working here. Same thing. Get set in position, tuck the pelvis, drive, stick into the wall 50%, push. You should be driving with both hands. You're not leaning into it. 60%. 70%. And ease off. Good. Let's go to switch sides here. So the trick is with this drill is it's actually harder going with the outside leg forward, because you have to really kind of externally rotate that hip, really kind of torque that hip into it to try to keep your stabilization there. So outside foot is forward, take a nice good split. Both arms are at 90 degrees. Squat down, tuck the pelvis, drive stick in the wall 50%, push. And you will definitely feel what side is stronger or weaker. Up to 60%, 70%, and ease off. Excellent. Let's go one more time. I'm really enjoying those, ramping it up as we go along here. Let's get set in position. Good, nice strong position here. 50% push. Good, 60%. 70%. Breathe. And ease off. Excellent, good. Now, we get into the deep fascial stretching. So this is where we actually start to stretch out. So we did get into some hip hinging. I do want to focus on stretching out the hamstrings a bit. So for this one, we are going to use 2 sticks. We're going to go through some hamstring flossing to start off with. So I'm going to grab my second stick here. Let's start off turning to the side. Now, as we do this, it's important that we're driving that heel into the floor, or pulling more so, it's a pulling motion to really activate those hamstrings a bit here as we go into the stretch. So I'm going to start with my right foot. So I'm going to have both feet together, and I'm going to have the bottom of the sticks angled out quite a bit. So roughly about 1.5 to 2 feet. And I'm going to take my right heel, place it in front of the line of my left foot, and I'm going to lightly bend the knee, drive. So I'm going to pull. I'm trying to get a pulling motion, almost like I'm trying to flex my knee. Then I'm going to extend my hands out and hinge. Driving those hips back. You're only driving the heel down about 20%. And now I'm going to externally rotate my hip. So rotate my hip outwards away from my center line. And then I'm going to internally rotate. Good. Externally rotate. Internally rotate. Back to center. Come up. And ease off. Good. Now we're going to switch over to the left side. Same thing. Take the left heel, place it in front of the line of the right foot. Slight bend to that left knee. Lightly drive that heel into the floor. Keep the ankle dorsiflexed. Drive those hands forward. Hinge the hips back. Good. Externally rotate. So rotate the knee outwards away from the center line, and then internally rotate towards the center line. Externally rotate. Good. Internally rotate. Back to center. Stand up and ease off. Good. Now we're gonna do a hamstring stretch again. We're just gonna take it up a notch a little bit. So I'm gonna kneel down. I'm gonna have my right knee down first. And I'm gonna have my left leg out front. And I wanna have my heel in line with my left hip here, ankle is still dorsiflexed. So what we're gonna do from this position is we're actually going to sink our hips back. So this is going to further lengthen that hamstring on that left side here. But I need to actually try to extend that knee in order to create more tension. So the sticks are laid on my shoulders here, angled out in front. I'm dorsiflexing my left ankle, back foot is into the floor, top of that foot there. And I'm going to sink my hips back, reach forward. Gonna feel that hamstring kind of open up a little bit. Good, I'm gonna come up. Gonna do that one more time. Sink those hips back. Good. Ease off. And now we're gonna switch sides. So keep the sticks where they're at. Bring your right foot forward. We're gonna do that same thing. And so if you're really flexible, you can have your foot out further and reach down a little bit further, right? That'd be the easiest way to increase that stretch. Slight bend to the knee, or bend to the knee, drive that heel down, hinge your hips back, reach. Excellent. Ease off. Good. Let's go into it one more time. Hinge, drive those hips back, reach down towards the bottom of the stick. Make sure your breathing here is extremely important. And ease off. Nice and slow. Good. And now we're going to stand up here. So I do want to get into getting some T-spine rotation here. So we are going to get into the slap shot because I do want to make sure that we loosen up the back at least a little bit and also at the same time attack those adductors. So I'm going to take the one stick, we're going to place it behind my mid-back. Take a relatively wide stance here. I want to have my feet slightly angled out. So from here, I'm going to hinge back. That's going to get a nice hamstring stretch here. I'm just going to hang out here for a second. Really take advantage of that stretch. Good. Take the left end of the stick, rotate it down to the center line, pull the stick apart, drive off that right leg. Good. Back to center. Go back to center here. Rotate the right end down. Pull apart. Push off that left leg. Back to center. Good. Bring it back to center here. Hang out for a second. Again, getting a hamstring stretch. So we're going to rotate the left end down further across that midline. Pull apart. Drive off that right leg. Breathe. Back to center. Come out. Good. Rotate the right end down. Cross that center line. Pull the stick apart. Drive off that left leg. Lunge to the right. Excellent. Stand up and wiggle those feet in. Good. And now I want to get into a hang. So we're going to get into a single arm hang here, but we're going to start from a half kneeling position. So I'm going to start with the stick in my right hand, going out to my right. My left leg needs to be forward here. My objective is to drop my right hip going down towards the bottom of the stick. So if you want more of a stretch, angle the bottom of the stick out further, not too far, but angle it out further because that'll allow you to really stretch those lateral lines here. So I'm gonna set up here. Stick is angled out outside of my right hip. And with my right hip, what I wanna do, I'm actually gonna externally rotate it. So I'm gonna bring my right foot towards the left side of my body here. I'm gonna have my right hand up above my head. And from here, I'm gonna grab the stick with my left hand and I'm gonna sink down into a hang here. Gonna get a stretch in the hip. I get the QL and the lats. Good, I'm gonna come back up. Excellent, take a second. Might need to shake your hands out a little bit. I'm gonna rotate the stick a little bit. We'll do that same thing. Sink into it. Use that opposite hand for support here. Good, ease off. Let's go one more time. Also, bottom of the stick is in line with my heel here. It doesn't necessarily need to be there. You can play around with the distance, but it really is going to depend on you. But for reference point, I have the bottom of my stick lined up with the heel of my left foot here. Let's go one more time. Drop down. Good, ease off. Excellent, let's go to switch sides. Should be feeling pretty loose here, right folks? We're gonna do that same thing. I'm gonna rotate my left hip. Stick is angled out. Left hand is up above my head. Right hand's gonna be on the stick for support. Drop that left hip down. Ease off. Good. So if doing a standing hang here is oftentimes too challenging for some people, this is a really good way to kind of regress that movement just by coming down to the knees here. It makes it a lot easier to control. Let's go into it again. Drop that left hip down towards the bottom of the stick. Hands come up, ease off. Excellent, let's go one more time. Rotate that stick a little bit. Let's get this last one in, folks. Chin up high, get a hang. 3, 2, 1, ease off, and excellent. That, my friends, concludes today's stick mobility class. Thank you again, everybody, for joining me. I hope everybody had a good class, and I'll be sure to catch you on the next one. Stay safe, have fun out there.